Srimad Bhagavatam 11:9-28 Srishtva Purani Vividhanya Jayatma Shaktya Vrikshan Sarisrup Pashun Khagadanda Shukan Taistairatustya Purusham Vidhaya Brahmavalokadhishanam Mudamapadevaha Srishtva Purani. So here the Avadut Brahmana is speaking to Maharaj Yadu after concluding his description of the 24 Gurus. Now he is stating how he has learned from, in general, how he is giving a general lesson about material existence by describing the conceptual chronology of creation. So, Srishtva Purani Vividhanya Jayatma Shaktya. Srishtva, in the beginning, created. Purani. Vividhani. Vividhani means various. Ajayatma Shaktya. So, Atma Shaktya, by his own energy. Ajaya refers to his illusory energy. So, with his material energy. Vividhani, the Lord created various species. Vrikshan Sarishrupa Pashun Khagadanda Shukan. So he created the Vrikshan is the plants, Sarishrupa is the reptiles, Pashun Khagadanda Shukan. So Pashu is animals, Khaga is birds, and Danda Shukan is the snakes. Taistair Atushtirudayaha. Even after creating, the Lord was not satisfied. Purusham Vidhaya. And then he created humans. And once he created human form, Brahma Avalokadhishanam. Brahma Avalok, the absolute truth seeing. So, the human form is capable of perceiving the absolute truth. Atushtirudaya. Earlier it was Atushtirudaya, but then after creating the human form, Vidhaya Brahma, which had the capacity to perceive the absolute truth, what happened? Mudamapadevaha. Mudamapa, he became happy, he became satisfied. Devaha, that Supreme Lord. Now, the purpose of creation is fulfilled in the human form of life. Sometimes atheists or even skeptics, they look at the world and they see such struggle, sometimes such savage struggle is there. Charles Darwin, he said that there is such brutal struggle where, say, a lion catches a deer and tears it apart and devours it. What horrible pain the deer goes through. And similarly, nature, sometimes when we look at nature and we may see trees and the sky and cooling wind, and we think, oh, it's so soothing, so beautiful. And that is at one level true. But nature in its own self-same existence is quite brutal. And the question may come up, what is the point of this all? Darwin said survival of the fittest. But then, even the fittest don't survive. So, there is the struggle for existence. And ultimately that struggle for existence ends in non-existence, ends in termination of existence. And that a law of the jungle applies, we could say at one level, to even the human beings. In the human society also, there is cutthroat competition and there is sometimes savage destruction. So when one sees the misery and the mortality that characterizes material existence, then the question may come up, what is the point of it all? So the point of it all is to transcend the misery and the mortality of material existence by rising to spiritual existence, by becoming spiritually aware. And the way to become spiritually aware is by becoming more and more cognizant of life's spiritual side. And that capacity to become spiritually conscious and to become ultimately conscious of the Supreme Lord, that capacity is possible only in the human form of only in the human form does the soul have its consciousness developed enough to perceive what is the purpose of living. What is the point of it all? All living beings exist, but only human beings seek the meaning of existence, seek the purpose of existence beyond the purposes of just survival and gratification. So, here it is described that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, felt satisfied after creating the human form. That means that the purpose of creation, which is to attain the destination beyond destruction. This creation is characterized by destruction. Moment after moment, one life form after another life form, till ultimately the whole creation itself is destroyed. But the purpose of creation is to attain a destination beyond destruction. That is the destination of the spiritual world, Krishna's eternal abode, which is beyond destruction. And to attain that, we need to start thinking about the purpose of existence. And when we inquire about the purpose of existence, when we do Brahma Jigyasa, the Vedanta Sutra says, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, inquire about spiritual truth now. So that is possible, that inquiry is possible because Brahmavalokadishanam, human beings have the capacity for perceiving spiritual truth. Mudamapadevaha. So what happens over here is that Mudamapadevaha, the Lord became satisfied because now in the human form, the soul can inquire spiritually and attain a spiritual destination, and thus transcend the misery and mortality of material existence. So now here, we human beings, if we don't inquire spiritually, then our existence also ultimately becomes pointless. Aghayur indriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. Krishna says 3.17 that. 3.16. Aghayur indriya ramo. For seeking pleasure of the senses, the life is lived with sin, and mogham partha sajivati. Life goes waste. So Krishna doesn't want us to suffer. And he wants us to attain eternal happiness, and that's why he's provided the human form wherein we can attain eternal happiness. And in those thought systems, in those religions whose current religious dogmas hold that the soul exists only in the human form, in their conception of creation, the existence of the non-human species becomes pointless. They live, they struggle, they suffer, and they die. And they're over. That's all that there is. But when we understand that all souls can and will come eventually to the human form, that actually gives a meaning to their existence. That yes, they may not attain eternal life in that particular existence, unless, of course, they come in contact with devotees and get prasad and somehow get spiritual consciousness without their conscious intention or conscious understanding. But If that happens, they are very fortunate. But even if that doesn't happen, there is progressive reincarnation by which the soul moves from lower species towards the higher species, and ultimately attains and eventually attains the human form, where the purpose of creation can be fulfilled. And that purpose is what? When that purpose is being fulfilled, or when the facility for fulfilling that purpose is there, has been provided, and the Lord feels satisfied. And in this case, we can just conceive that if Krishna feels so satisfied when he's just provided the human form, when a human being actually takes the benefit of the human form and starts practicing spiritual life and starts coming towards him, starts going beyond the reach of misery, how much more happy he will become. And thus, he as the Paramatma accompanies us and helps us, to prods us to inquire spiritually and attain the destination beyond destruction. Thank you.